Hey guys, what's up? So today I'm looking at the Highwind Amplification Direwolf pedal. So stay tuned. So you just heard it in a full mix. Sounds pretty good. Since it's hot as balls today in California, I mean, I'm literally sitting in a garage that's roughly just shy of 90 degrees right now. I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet because I just want to kind of show what this pedal does best. And what it really does best is it goes in front of a high gain amplifier and it takes your kind of medium to low gain, maybe even high gain channel, to the next level, kind of like any boost pedal will do or any other overdrive will do. But this one has a bit more bells and whistles built into it. So before we go any further, I really need to thank Brandon from Tyrannosaurus Riffs. Go check out his channel. I'll link it up here. And he sent me this pedal to kind of demo and check out. I went ahead and I sent him my licked Lamb audio, King and Yellow. We kind of did a swap. So go check out that video that he just did on that one. But yeah, I gotta thank him a lot for sending this pedal over to me. So one of the coolest things about this pedal that I found is when you engage it, you get two LED lights that pop up, and they basically are the eyes of the wolf. I think just from a design standpoint, that's pretty awesome. So for now, I'm running into my EV8 Stealth on the blue channel. It's one of my favorite channels to boost. I have it set with the gain pretty low, probably about maybe 10 or 11 o'clock. And here's what the tone is just by itself. I'm running into my torpedo captor. I'm actually using some IRs today because it was 4th of July a couple days ago, and I want to give my neighbors some reprieve from all the loud fireworks that went on. So here's what the blue channel sounds like with no boost in front of it. And today I'm using the Firefly guitar that I reviewed on the last video, just because I really like that Alnico 8 magnet, so we're going to keep with that. But as you can hear, the blue channel, it's, you know, pretty tight actually for kind of a lower gain channel. If I turn the gain up on the blue channel, you can get into more kind of gnarly territory. But, you know, it kind of is more reminiscent of sort of an older Marshall. It even kind of mimics a little bit of what's going on with the rectifier that I have here. So let me go ahead and turn on the Direwolf how I have it set now. You can see the settings on the inset screen. And, you know, here's what it sounds like with settings that I kind of like. Immediately just super tight. Let me go ahead and turn it back off. So what you're getting is a little bit more grit, a little bit more aggression, and just a little bit more tightness. Now, it has your standard layout of controls that you see on most overdrive pedals. We have a level, we have a drive, and we have a tone knob. We also have a blend knob. You can actually blend in your dry signal to kind of match your wet signal. So and that really comes in handy if you're using this as like a straight up overdrive. Like if you're driving kind of a kind of really low gain channel or like a clean channel, you want a little bit more of your dry signal to kind of pop through. That's what that's really meant for. I like having the blend all the way to the right because that means that it's fully, you know, doing its thing. And, you know, for metal stuff and boosting amps, I think that's what you really want. But there is something to be said for having a little bit more of that low end come through without having to mess with the switches that I'm going to get to in a minute. Now, the tone knob, if you have it all the way up, you get very you know, just bite. Turn it all the way down, you get a lot of more round kind of, I wouldn't call it flub, I'd call it just more of like a rounder, warmer tone. Works like a tone knob on most overdrive pedals that you would typically find. So let's get to like the real cool stuff on this pedal. So all the way to the right here, we have well, actually, no, let me not go there first. Let's go with what I think is the most basic and important feature of this, and that is what they call the voice. So what the voice is, and if you've ever had like a pedal like the Plumes or any other multi switching, what would you call it, like a multi-clipping circuit pedal, this voice switch is your clipping circuit style. And up top you have your symmetrical diode clipping. In the middle you have what they call a diode lift, which is like a wide open, non-clipping, transparent boost. And then down at the bottom is the LED clipping circuit. I like the LED clipping circuit. It's more aggressive than the symmetrical diode, and it's not quite as over the top as the open clipping circuit. So I'm gonna keep that down there. And then to the right, we have what they label as boost. And so this is basically gain stages. There's 3 different amounts of gain on tap when you engage this drive knob. Let me just switch to the clean channel real quick to demonstrate this a little bit better. So down at the bottom, lowest gain. In the middle, the highest gain. And at the top, there's kind of this like in between. So I tend to keep it on the bottom. I kind of like that like less gain. It seems to have a little bit more bite to it. I have also liked doing the top just to have a little bit more push. The middle position, I mean, if you really want to go balls to the wall with this pedal, you can. I think it's a little bit much for my taste. So I'm going to keep it on the bottom lowest gain position. Have it on LED voicing. Now, the growl function is another cool thing because sometimes these pedals tend to, yes, they tend to tighten up the signal, but sometimes they tighten it up so much that there's some of that like really like low sub heft, like kind of whoomp whoomp kind of sound that kind of goes away. You almost don't get that real chunky palm mute sound. And so in the middle position, what you have on the growl is the stock, like very tight, you know, the least amount of bass in the circuit kind of setting. If you go up to the top, you have the most bass in the circuit. And if you go to the bottom, you have kind of an in-between, kind of like a little bit of bass. I like to have it on the bottom with just a little bit of bass coming through. And if you know, if I cycle through that a little bit, here's the stock. It's pretty subtle. You can definitely hear it in the room, and you can feel it when you're driving a speaker cab, like it's noticeable. Let me turn the tone back a little bit. I think I'm getting a little bit spiky there. And then all the way at the left, we have the bite. Now, this comes in really handy with drop tuning and extended range guitars because it's basically a brightness switch. So in the middle, you have the most bright, and then at the bottom, you have kind of, you know, a little bit less brightness. I think this is like the stock setting where it's kind of like really in the middle. And then up at the top, you have what is kind of like the least bright. I like to have it at the bottom. And so what I found out with this pedal is I kind of like having all the switches at the bottom. And that's kind of my preferred way to go. And then I kind of mess with the tone to taste. So if I'm looking at what I'm doing right now. do kind of like that middle clipping circuit, that open diode lift. It does have a little bit more of an open sound to it. It's not quite as compressed because it doesn't have the clipping. I really like that too. Now, one thing about boost pedals and overdrives in general that I don't think gets touched on quite a bit is when you kind of set it up, it is cool to have it kind of in front of an amp that you already like the tone of. But I'm going to say I've never really had a boost pedal or an overdrive where I wasn't doing kind of a push-pull, or I don't know what you'd call it, but like kind of like a give and take between the amp and the pedal itself. Sometimes you do have to set up the amp to kind of match the pedal a little bit more to really get the most optimal tone. And for some people, that's not ideal. Some people really like their amp to be set up and then just have the boost do its thing. But for someone like me who constantly puts some sort of boost pedal in front of their high gain amp, depending on which amp it is, I kind of build my tone around the pedal as well as the amp in tandem, if that makes sense. So if I wanted to increase the mids on the amp here, kind of scale back the highs, the lows, maybe give it a little bit more gain, and then, you know, because I scaled those highs back, I might be able to get a little bit more out of this. Yeah, I really like kind of having a little bit more that feedback between the amp and the pedal and just being able to kind of tweak both in tandem. And I think that pedal is really good for it because you do have a lot of options on how to shape the tone in front of the amp. So anyway, it's already looking like it's getting into the mid-90s out here, and I'm starting to sweat my ass off. So I'm going to leave it there. I would definitely say this is in my top 5 pedals for boosting high gain that I played, and I've done a lot, and I'm going to have to go and find one for myself. I have to go ahead and send this one back to Brandon. But either way, that was my spiel on it. Hope you got something out of it. Anyway, later.